back from the dead.
We weren't dead.
Back. I am still alive.
Maybe we have to verify that.
Fall is here. The time
Really?
where the leaves change. It's a good time of year in Houston, man. Summer's over, bro. Halloween.
You think it's gone?
Halloween's coming.
Yeah.
What's gonna be happening in Harris County?
What are you going for as Halloween?
Okay.
I mean, you're bringing it up.
No, yes,
really
yes,
early,
no. I'm putting it out
like
there.
your Walmart or Sam's Club or something.
No, well, fair. Wherever it happens to appear. I'm putting it out there. I am going as Gomez.
Okay.
From the Addams family. What are you going as?
I don't. I'm gonna go as you. I'm gonna try to do the hair.
That's ridiculous, bro. That's ridiculous. Where are you gonna get that? You can't get this hair.
I don't think. I mean, if I started right now, I don't think I'd ever get it.
It's Elvis Black. You know that, right?
I could buy a mold or something, right?
Hey,
it's like a helmet.
Thank you very much. No, bro. What you're gonna
JV
go?
Preston.
You're gonna go as White Elvis?
No, I was gonna go with JV. Just as JV. The older one.
Justin Harris, ladies and gentlemen, at the other microphone.
What's up?
How are you,
Yeah,
bro?
man. Sorry we've been gone for a while, but
a lot of it's been my fault, man. I mean,
we both have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, Harris County got a lot going on.
Yeah.
We had a lot of big wins, man. DA's getting shuffled.
Yeah, that happened.
Elections coming.
Yeah, I'm looking at that stuff. You can kind of feel it around the courthouse sometimes, right?
It's backlogged, bro. They're backlogged.
Yeah. Right?
They're backlogged. Dump all the cases that don't need to be tried because we're going to step up and we're going to try them.
Right.
Am I right?
You can clear out the backlog. Yeah.
Hey, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? No, really. We're going to try the things, man. Get rid of all the stupid cases.
We can't get them dismissed. We'll try it.
Right. And exactly.
I hear you.
How you been, man?
Good. Just busy. You know how it is.
What
How about y'all?
What have you heard around the courthouse?
Well, like I said, I think some of the election stuff has been kind of an undertone around the courthouse. Courts resetting cases, and no one's touching election day. You can't get court dates on election day. That's one thing I've noticed.
Somebody's asking, "Where's your PSL?" I don't know what a PSL is. Do you know what a PSL is? Neither do I.
Which are you looking at the right chat?
I don't know, man. I'm trying to get a live chat.
Oh. Let's see. What other big things have been going on?
There was something on NPR this morning on the Harris County District Attorney's Office and funding, and Lena Hidalgo, and I think it's called Project Save Everybody or something. And they've had a lot of success on it. So at least that's what NPR was reporting. News 88.7.
By Project Second Chance?
It might be. It might.
I'm trying to look it up.
PSL means pumpkin spice latte. This was a coffee black. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't do the pumpkin spice.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. Halloween's upon us.
PSL, pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, well. Okay, so
I'm not finding anything on NPR about Project Second Chance, but
it came out It was on NPR like yesterday or this morning. Something about funding, DA's office. Murders are actually down. This was on News 88.7. Murders were down, and we're behind Chicago and Philadelphia. Something like 320 murders in Houston this year, which is down supposedly. Which, fair enough. That's cool. That's good. It was on.
Well, here's a KUT article, the Austin NPR affiliate, about the subject is Harris County bail reform efforts aren't making crime worse, study shows, and it was published on last Thursday, the 2nd. No,
that hit national
Friday.
Media. It hit national news.
This is KUT. It's the Texas Standard reporting.
Do you remember
research?
Do you remember how it was before bail reform?
Yeah.
How wild is that, man?
Well, what I can't figure out is the jail population. It's lower, but I don't believe it's that much lower.
Well, it's because it's a crime to do anything these days.
Yeah. I think the intake is taking so many more cases that, like, the long-term jail population is probably significantly lower, but like the day-to-day, you got some people coming in and also going right back out. That I think it keeps that number up higher. But yeah, it's crazy. You walk into holdovers. Remember when like holdover cells were so full of people, there's not enough room for everyone to sit on there's a bench that lines like the whole wall, like 3 sides of that wall, and there wouldn't be enough room on the bench. People would have to sit on the floor.
State moves or bond forfeiture. State moves or bond forfeiture.
People were 5 minutes late to court.
And be like, shut up. No. Motion to shut up. Motion to sit down. Give me a break, man. We still see some of that stuff happen. We do.
Which stuff? Some people having their bonds revoked?
Well,
for being a few minutes late?
People getting their bonds revoked all the time, right? No,
right.
But at the very least, at least in my experience, we're going to have a hearing on this. At least in my experience. And we're going to have a hearing on it. And so we have the hearing on it. So I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
We're starting to have some issues I have been a while, like the issues with how the hearings are being conducted, like whether they're just getting to read in police reports and into the record or what they're going to do. But yeah, I guess we are in some ways getting hearings.
Hey, you can do.
We didn't get those before.
You can do whatever you want until someone objects.
Right. Right.
Hey, am I wrong?
No, you're right. And I had a judge that I had a case that qualified for a PR bond, and the client picked up another case that qualified for a general order bond or a PR bond. And the state had moved to revoke the first bond when they showed up for court. And the judge said, okay, I'll give you a hearing on it. And we went forward on the hearing, and I made my arguments. They made their arguments. They brought a witness even. I cross-examined the witness, and the judge said, okay, I find by the standard that you violated the terms and conditions of the bond. If the state's asking me to revoke it, I'll revoke it. What do you want me to set it a new one at? So I'm like, telling my client it's going to be okay. We're going to get this. It's just, I think it was a trespass case. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. We figured this out. In the same breath, the judge revoked the bond. The state asked for a new bond amount. They raised it. I think they asked for it to be like $1 more or $100 more. The judge set it at $1 more, and then asked me if I had anything. And I said, Judge, will you consider a PR bond? The judge said, sure, I'll grant a PR bond on the new bond. So sometimes the state needs to think, like you were saying before, about dismissing a bunch of cases that are BS because they're going to be tried. They need to think. The judge did what the judge is supposed to do. A party filed a motion. They asked for a hearing on it. We objected. We weren't agreeing to what they were asking for, the revocation of the bond. The judge heard the evidence. The judge applied the standard under the law to the evidence, said, yep, the motion was granted. And then what do you want me to do? Okay, raise the bond? Sure. And then anything else? Then I asked for a PR bond. The judge said, sure, it's required under the law. So the state was pissed, they were not happy at all about that. But then when it was pointed out to them that this was a kind of a foregone conclusion because of the court order, the federal court order, well, I still didn't really understand it, but um, yeah. So I just think that some of this, I don't really know where I started on this, but some of this is we need a little bit more discretion in these courts, and um, we're seeing bonds revoked. We're getting hearings, but I think a lot of times the state should be asking, do they really want to do that?
Well, the
But
idea, right. And so when the state says, yeah, we'll have that hearing, or when I request, yeah, I'll have that hearing, I use that as a discovery tool, or to solidify a particular narrative that is corroborated by what I believe the facts say.
mm-hmm.
So if I can get people on testimony and marry them to a particular set of facts that I believe are corroborated by the evidence, and then marry at this point, typically the officers are not as prepared as they would be as they go to trial, because it's some sort of preliminary hearing and maybe they're just called last minute.
Right.
Which is not very different than how they're treated at trial, but that's a separate conversation.
A lot of times.
But
yeah.
You can marry that officer to testimony that's favorable for you because he's a little bit less equipped to talk about what's in the offense report or what actually happened, the facts of the.
Yeah, he's not coached.
Right.
He's not coached beforehand.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. So I like.
Yeah, when you can use them as evidentiary things, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, if you just know that your client's. Here's the thing, though. I mean, you already know that if your client's going to be 11 bead or held at no bond, or given a bond that he can't afford, don't just waive those hearings. Is what I'm saying. Like, don't just waive them. Say, yeah, you know what? We want a hearing. We're just going to ask some questions. We're going to get something on the record. You know, we're going to ask you some things.
Yep, I agree. Don't waive them. I have one tomorrow.
Robb Fickman on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Robb, how are you? He's on the live wire here.
What's up, Robb? You should call in with some of his thoughts on this.
I agree. Robb, I would love to hear, speaking of big wins in Harris County, Robb had a huge federal win a month, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Something like, he's the only one of the guys that didn't plea. They went to trial. I guess it was I don't know the length of the trial. Hard fought battle. Only one came out with a not guilty. That's what I hear.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Congrats.
That's Robb. August 8th, it went down. Is what I'm looking at. I've never tried a federal case. I've had plenty of hearings, but never the verdict. And that must be amazing. I don't know. I just think that's all. Like, to me, that's awesome.
It is. I'd love to do that.
Robb, 2-week trial, 7 counts.
Wow.
That's
you get to hear not guilty 7 times?
I don't know.
We're
waiting for it. So let's go. Okay, so we're at 8:15 now. Let's go. Let's talk about some election. Oh, look, Rob's going to call in. We're going to talk about his federal trial.
Oh, good. Yeah, please.
713-8. I'm going to type it in, Robb. You can just call in old school. Unless you can put him on the screen.
I can if he gets the link. If someone wants to email him the link.
Yeah, Robb, you should have the.
I'll email it to him right now. Let me see.
The Zoom link. But while Robb's coming on, this KUT article that I'm reading about bail reform, it's a good segue to Robb Fickman joining the show, since Robb has been railing about PR bonds for so long. but this study said we found that reform was quite successful. It reduced the likelihood that people were convicted. It reduced guilty pleas, which in these misdemeanor cases, I think often reflect situations where people are pleading guilty not because they think they're guilty, but because they just want to go home. Sentence lengths fell, but there was no evidence to suggest that there was an increase in crime as a result of liberalizing pretrial release. If anything, the evidence seems to suggest the opposite. Our preferred estimates indicate that if you look out 3 years past the initial case, people are actually about 6% less likely to have new cases filed against them. So that seems like that was a study based out of the results of a study that was based out of Pennsylvania. Where is it?
And they're studying hairs?
Yeah, University of Pennsylvania's Quattrone Center for Fair Administration of Justice. And their study indicated that bail practices do not compromise public safety. That our Harris County bail practices do not compromise public safety.
Well, murders are down, and they can let out as many low-level, non-violent people who don't need to be locked up in jail cases.
Right. Yeah, and it should let people get back to work, get back to their lives, save taxpayers money all at the same time.
And and those
should be
jails
a no-brainer for people.
And those jails are still full.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. It's the weirdest thing. Like the holdovers in the misdemeanor courts are relatively empty. There's a few that kind of are a little more crowded than others, but I don't understand why the population is still such that. I mean, they're starting to bus people. They're going to start busing people out to West Texas now. Did you hear this?
No.
I've heard they've been doing Louisiana, but I've heard that they're going to start busing people way out to like deep West Texas, like Panhandle.
I was set for trial, and my guy was in Louisiana when I went to visit him. The week prior to trial, he was in Louisiana, and I was like, dude, we have trial in a week. I can't. I mean,
how can he aid in his own defense from another state?
The joke was, I guess you got to go to Louisiana. And I was like, guess I got to build a county. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, what? Like,
that was the judge's response?
No. That was the local colloquialism in whatever arena
Okay, just making sure. Like, hopefully the judge was like, wait, what?
No, the judge
get him back here now.
No, the judge is very respectful and understanding of the situation.
I hear you. But the judges that I've heard about, who I've talked to about this, a lot of them aren't aware of it, and they don't like to hear that inmates are being shipped that far away, making it difficult for us to communicate with them. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the population numbers.
Hey, well, what do they say? What's the solution? Build bigger jails?
Build bigger, more, build more, build bigger, build
That's
faster.
That's ridiculous to me, man. I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
There
he is. The Czar. He's connecting his audio still.
Robb. Past president, past host, the president, the king, Robb Fickman, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey guys, I didn't mean to crash your party.
No, come on in.
I just was actually stumbling through Facebook and I saw you and I was like, I know those guys.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
What's
Thank
up?
you for coming. No, well, we were talking about big wins and such.
Yeah, you've had a lot, JV, and Justin as well. Man, I said JV's on fire. If you don't mind my asking, how old are you? 39.
I'm 39. 39.
Yeah, that's the age.
How many years have you been 39?
Well, that's weird because I'm 39 too. I'm the
oldest one here.
39, 40, right in there were some of my best years because sounds bad to say it that way, but because that's when you're confident, and you know your way around the courthouse, and you're trying cases, and when you're trying cases back to back as you've been doing. Once you kind of, like I said, I told you about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I said, man, you're on fire, you're in the groove. And when you get ready, you get done with one trial, and as soon as you're done with that, you like kick their ass, and you get ready for the next one, kick their ass, and you kind of build a momentum, and your self-confidence is high. And then, do that for a long time. And and I got where a long time ago when I was on a roll, when I was about your age, and then I had to try a federal case, and I don't want to even say the guy's name because it's bad hoodoo. I, and I that case was the end of my winnings.
Well, speaking of good juju, talk to us about this Fed case, man. Yeah, it was in the was it in the Southern District here in Houston?
Yeah,
Eastern District.
Who
it was here?
Who presided?
The case was indicted out of Galveston division, but it was tried here. It was called Operation Wrecking Ball. God, do I look as old as I look? It was called Operation Wrecking Ball.
No, not at all.
And yeah, you liar. And they indicted, I think it was either 53 or 56 cartel connected, alleged, and drug and money laundering conspiracy with I don't know, 100 something counts. Out of the 56 indicted, I think 48 or something were actually arrested. Some of them were smart. The biggest people, the number one defendant was never arrested, still a fugitive.
Wow.
He was smart enough to stay wherever. And it was 3 years, this case, 3.5 years. And I think they dismissed a couple of counts against a couple of people where they just didn't have anything. To his credit, they dismissed Pat McCann's case. I don't know the behind the scenes on that, but I know they did it. And there were a couple other people's cases that got dismissed. But at the end of the day, I think over 40 pled guilty, is my understanding.
Wow.
There were only 5 of us left to go to trial. And my colleagues that went to trial and I, 2-week-long trial, and they all fought hard. I was, proud to try a case with them, but it was unique because there was a large conspiracy alleged, but really when they broke it down, the charts, there was 5 conspiracies, even under their own theory. So when they got our 5 clients in court, it helped us because our clients had none of their stories touched each other.
Yeah.
It was basically 5 different dope cases.
Right.
And so my client didn't know any of these other people. They didn't know my client. So the government was trying 5 individual drug cases from the same jury and claiming these people were all co-conspirators, but they didn't talk about that much more than to just try to say they're all leading to the same thing. And, I caught some breaks because the government's case had some problems. And the federal government is used to winning, most of the people plead guilty, and those that go to trial mostly lose. So they're accustomed to always winning. And I think their arrogance, some of them are pretty arrogant. Their arrogance may be their Achilles heel because they thought they'd win even when they had a problematic case. I was able to.
Did you try it against any of the old DAs from the DA office? Because I know a lot of them went over there.
No, I don't think this guy. I don't really want to say the name of the prosecutor.
Yeah.
I don't think he's one of the ex-DAs. This guy's a longtime federal prosecutor assigned to the Galveston. I don't want to talk about him, but
sure.
We were not exactly simpatico. Well, we caught some lucky breaks. There's I'll give you a couple funny anecdotes, I guess.
Yeah, tell us what are the lucky breaks?
Right before trial, they had a lot of tapes. They had a wiretap on, they had numerous wiretaps. They had a wiretap on a guy's phone, and they had identified my client as talking with this guy. And they had all these tapes that they claimed was my client on the wire. And I had actually had my client's family come in and listen to these tapes and keep quiet. Don't talk to each other, just listen to the tapes. And then I interviewed them one at a time. I said, "Is that Joey?" That's his name. That's not really his name. And I interviewed him one at a time, and I needed a translator for some of them because it's Spanish. And every family member said the same thing. That's not him on the tape. I mean, I went from, siblings to nephews, mama, his entire family said that's not him on the tape. In fact, not only is it not him, but just like in the United States, I came to learn that, which I probably should have known before, was that there are a lot of different accents in Mexico. And the people on the tape that they identified, the person they identified on the tape as my client, had a country accent, kind of from up north, whereas my client was originally from Mexico City. So there's no, they said, these people don't even sound like my client. So we were ready to go on that. And then right before trial, the government filed its exhibit list, which included about, 12 or 14 tapes with the transcripts. And I filed a motion objecting to those, to the authenticity, because in federal court, if you don't object to the authenticity before trial by the deadline, it's deemed authenticated and it's automatically admitted. Okay.
Whoa.
And you can make objections, but so there's a lot of stuff like that in federal court that's really different than state court. Federal court has a lot of traps that if you're not ready for them, they can really screw you. But it'll be for both of you guys to get over in federal court. I don't know, Justin, if you've been over there or not.
I have, but it's been a while. Like when I was looking for some other.
It's a huge challenge because they've got so much, But to win over there is a special feeling. So anyway, right before trial, I filed my objection to the authenticity of the tapes and admissibility as well. And the very next day, the prosecutor calls me and he says, "Oh, yeah, there's something we need to tell you." I'm mocking him now. Said, "We got some jailhouse calls of your client." So it was his known voice. And we compared them. We used our own expert to have him compare those to the wiretap calls. And our own expert has told us that's not your guy. And now what was kind of interesting is like, well, that's called Brady where I come from. And I was like, when did they learn that? And I asked for a report. No report was forthcoming, but the government agreed they were not going to use those. I got it in writing. And we had a big argument in court over not whether or not those were going to come in, but I wanted to bring up the fact that they mistakenly believed my client was on wire for 3 years and during the time that they had indicted him. And the government didn't want the jury to even know that. But right. I got it in. I got in that they screwed up and thought my client was on tape and misidentified him, and which helped. And the second thing I'll tell you is that they had a videotape of a drug deal going down in front of my client's house and in front of the house next door. And they had a videotape of it, and there was, let's say, a man in orange, okay? And they see this guy in orange, and they, after the videotape is made of a certain day, they identify this house where they think this drug deal went down, and they look it up and see who the owner is, and it's my client. And then they go to Facebook, my client's Facebook page, and they go and they find a Facebook picture of my client, and they go, "Oh, that's him. That's the guy that's walking in front of the house. That's the guy in the orange shirt." I mean, and it had a sort of racist, I don't want to say they were racist, but it was a Mexican guy, Hispanic guy walking around, and a Hispanic guy, my client's Hispanic. Who owns the house, and they matched the pictures up. So that's him. The agent said that's him. And so my client was identified that way and indicted because it was in front of his house right. And because they said that's him. Well, what we did was rather simple. We watched the tape. There was actually about 4 tapes, but there was one that the guy in orange who was identified as my client was on, but it was moving very quickly. And so what I did was just put it on a friggin' machine and slowed it down real slow until I could capture still shots. Okay. And I captured 5 or 6 still shots, and I got them introduced into evidence. And I had the agent, it was pretty obvious when you looked at the guy's picture. And I said, "Agent, what would you estimate the man in orange's weight to be in the still shot?" Because he looked pretty big. And he said, "Well, about 280. Well, that was on the light side because this was a big dude, okay? And the jury could see the picture. It was all, I had it on the overhead. And so then I had my client come over. He'd been wearing a baggy coat. I always have my clients wear baggy coats. So especially if they're muscular, you don't want them wearing tight because it looks kind of scary. So I had my client come over and with the court's permission and take off his jacket. And my client was shorter than me and for sure skinnier. And so I asked him to estimate my client's weight, and he estimated 180, which was at least 20 pounds higher than it could have been. So So I said, well, you think it's possible that in identifying the man on the tape who you estimate weighs 100 pounds more than my client, do you think it's possible that maybe, just maybe, you made a mistake in the identification?
What'd he say?
You know,
Oh,
this was perfect. His response was perfect, and it hurt his credibility, I think, because the jury could see he was wrong.
Yeah.
And instead of saying,
like, hello?
instead of owning his mistake, which he should have said, yeah, it is possible. He had to qualify. He said it's possible, but there are other factors. I'm like, this is an identification.
Right.
There's no other facters. Either you made a mistake or you didn't. And then I could keep talking about this case for a long time, and I don't want to do that. But,
well, I have a question.
Yeah.
So how did you get in front of the jury the fact that they had these recordings that for 3.5 years they thought were your client and they really weren't? Like, and then they didn't want you to do that, so you had a fight. What did you offer the recordings to just show the jury, listen to this, and then you thought that was my client? Or
the government didn't want the jury to even. The government did not want the jury to even know they'd made that mistake, and so they objected to my even asking the questions. Initially, the judge ruled in their favor. Well, I said, well, I want to make a record then. And I have all these transcripts. I said, I didn't want to introduce the transcripts. I didn't want to get into the weeds on these conversations, but it showed an alternative perpetrator. It showed somebody else negotiated these deals. Not only that, it also went to the quality of the investigation.
Right.
And I think it was evidence that it was probably presented to the grand jury, indirectly at least. And I argued it went to the quality of the investigation. The jury was entitled to know. And the judge reversed his own decision, and he allowed me to get into the fact in a limited way that, and it was, I had to go out and actually tell the agent, you're allowed to answer these questions, because I didn't want to quarrel with him. So I had the prosecutor go out in the hallway after the judge ruled to tell the agent, the judge has ruled you can answer these 3 questions. And it was about 3 or 4 questions, but I got it in that way. And so that we didn't have a 30-minute quarrel on in the courtroom in front of the jury.
No, that's better. Yeah, you don't want to bog down on the content of a conversation.
I told prosecutor, you come outside with me and let's tell the agent what he can answer.
Right.
And that's what we did. And he got up there, and that agent played it straight. He answered what I told him the judge had ruled that he could. And I didn't go beyond what the judge said, but I made the point, which was during the course of the investigation for a long time, they thought my guy was on tape, and he wasn't. But the best part about the case was that they said my client's nickname was Taco. They kept trying to stick that on him. Taco this, Taco that. So there were 2 houses that the drug deal was happening at, okay? The second house, there was my client's house, and I had an excuse for why he wasn't involved. We had evidence that my client had actually rented his house and was not even there. And I had this point. If my client is not the man in orange, then there's no evidence that he was even present. You follow me?
Yeah.
Which was consistent with my defense theory, which was that my client had rented his house out for a 6-month period and was not there during that time. They had no evidence to rebut that. So that was part of my defense. And then there was house next door. So you have my client's house and the house next door. They never looked at the house next door. Okay?
Yeah.
And the dope dealers were going back and forth between the 2 houses. So we looked up, if you go to the county attorney's office, not the county attorneys, if you go to the county clerk's office, you can get warranty deeds to show who owns what property. And it's really useful. We usually use a Harris County Appraisal District papers, but that just shows who's paying the taxes. It doesn't show ownership really. So I went and got the actual warranty deeds, which are self-authenticating. And I got the warranty deed for the house next door. And I found out the name of that man. We'll just call him Mr.
Orange?
Well, no, Mr. Orange was my guy.
And
the guy that owned the house next door, we'll call Mr. Big. Okay. So I checked to see if Mr. Big owned any other property, and it sure did. Guess what? He owned another property that was like an estate.
His name's Mr. Big. He's Mr. Big.
Mr. Big lived in a house that you would think Mr. Big would live in. And I had my investigator go out there and take pictures. I got the pictures in evidence during my case in chief, but I didn't show them to the jury until final argument. And so I pointed out that the government, and I didn't give the government a chance to explain it. I never asked them any questions about their failure to ask questions about their failure to investigate the house next door. Because I knew if I asked them, well, you never investigated the house next door, that they would probably lie and say, well, that matter's under investigation.
Right.
but we can't
Okay.
talk about it.
Right,
So I didn't give him
right.
that chance.
Hey, Kate Ferrell.
I saved it till my case. And so on my case, hey, Kate.
Kate's on.
On my case.
Kate's got other gossip behind this one, but continue, Rob.
I'm almost done.
Yeah.
So I brought up, and the jury was interested in this, Mr. Big Guy, because during the drug deal, so you have this one address that's used, and then I brought up evidence about this other address that's this estate, basically, okay? And I showed that during the drug deal, 2 vehicles showed up, and men got out of those vehicles, and the cars were registered, guess what, back to the Mr. Big's other house.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it definitely showed some connection. Mr. Big, he owns the house that's being used on the video. He also has 2 vehicles show up that are registered to his other house. Okay. So then I get these pictures. In final argument, I told the jury, and I close on this. I said, I'm going to show you the pictures now of Mr. Big's house, but I'll just let you know right now. Remember, I told you that they kept referring to my client as Taco, that the dope dealer was Taco.
Right.
And so I said, I want you to know before I show you these pictures, this is going to remind you of something out of like Narcos. So show them this overhead picture that JJ Gradoni took, my investigator. And it shows this is like inside the city, but it's just like giant isolated area surrounded by trees and stuff and out in a field. And you got to go down a dirt road to get there. And then after you go down the dirt road, and I'm showing the jury the pictures kind of leading up to it. Then there's this giant gate, 20 feet fence all around it, metal and electric gate. I mean, kind of has a certain appearance, right?
Yeah.
And then I show the house, pictures of the house. And of course, it's this giant house with a giant fountain. It looks like, it does look like something out of Narcos. And then the last picture I show them is this picture with an orange truck, orange van, which my investigator testified was a taco truck.
Yeah,
So I
of course it was.
I said in final argument, I said, if you're looking for somebody whose nickname might be Taco, maybe it's the guy with a taco truck parked right in front of his house.
Love it. Yes.
That kind of time. And so the government completely failed to investigate this whole thing.
Not guilty.
And then they tried to mock it during final argument, like, I guess we should thank the defense for doing this investigation.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, yeah, maybe you should.
Yeah, maybe you should.
I bet you should thank me for kicking your ass, Rob Fickman.
Well,
Rob, not guilty.
And it goes back to what I said earlier, which is they're so used to winning in federal court, they rarely lose, that they have an arrogance. And it's understandable given the fact that they're almost always on the winning side. But so when they start to get sloppy, it gives us a chance. And I think that we maybe don't take those chances enough, but it's up to the client. It's hard to win there. I know lawyers, good lawyers, who've tried cases in federal court and in their entire career have never gotten not guilty in federal court. And I'm not bragging. I've been fortunate, and I got some good facts.
Who presided?
There. Sorry?
Who presided?
It's Judge Brown from Galveston.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful.
He gave us a fair trial.
Awesome.
That helps.
Kate, okay, switching gears. Harris County, local, there's some big drama that's been going on in is it the 338th or 339th? Who is it?
339.
339.
Oh, no.
Catherine Thomas versus who?
PDO's office. Candace, I can't remember her last name though, but she's fantastic. Let me just say. She's absolutely fantastic.
I hear they're going to battle. Did they reach a
They
verdict?
are going to. So I've been watching most of the trial. I can't say I've seen all of it. By the way, Rob, congratulations. That's
thanks.
huge
Thank
in
you.
federal court. Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wins in federal court. You just plead. You just
never
go
heard
through
of-
the
I've
guidelines,
never
figure
heard
it
of
out, and that's all
anybody-
that happens.
I've never heard of anybody
usually
winning in federal court.
it's the client's decision. Almost all clients want to plead. So I was fortunate. I had a client that maintained his innocence from day one. I didn't have any choice but to work my ass off to get ready. So, I got lucky.
That's awesome.
I'll take the luck.
Badass.
Thank you.
So,
But it wasn't story got?
So it's been over the course of like 2 days. Start to the beginning. It's been like 2 days.
So they started trial not last week, but the week before. They picked the jury. It's a retrial of a murder case from April that they had a hung jury mistrial back in April. I believe Jamal was on the case then. Now Candace has taken over.
Candace is who?
She's from the PDO's office. I don't know her last name. She's great though.
Awesome.
Yeah. I didn't know her before watching her, but I would listen to everything she has to say. She's got a perfect tone of voice, great questions, really insightful. She's absolutely fantastic.
Is the case over or is it still going?
Yeah, no, the jury has it.
Okay, so start from the beginning.
Okay, so they got the case like last week. They started trial. About 5 days of testimony. Been fighting back and forth every little thing. Like, I'm not going to name names who's on the prosecutor's side, but it's a little shady.
Well, who's trying the case on the prosecutor's side?
Yeah,
well, you already said
the state of Texas.
Who is it?
You already said it.
Who is it?
Oh, the PD.
He doesn't want to say the name.
Did I say it already?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot already. I'm excited.
Who?
I'm listening to you. I don't know.
I missed it. Rob says okay. Say the name.
Say it, JV. I'm not saying it.
I really don't know who's trying.
Kat Thomas.
Oh, Catherine Thomas. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. That's crazy. Okay.
Look, I'm not a judicial candidate anymore, so I'm going to say this. I find some of her behavior real shady.
I don't know. I haven't seen any.
I'll give you an example, and we'll let our viewers say, like, Katie, you're just being a defense attorney, or you know what, that is shady.
Well,
so example,
okay, what?
I'll just give you an example.
I haven't seen it.
She says, hey, this USB has still photos from a video that's already been admitted into evidence. So defense says, no objection, that's fine. The very first two photos are not from that video. They're from something completely different. She doesn't even pretend that she's like surprised by this. She's like, oh, well, it's just two photos.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's not good.
She misrepresented to the court? Yeah, you can't do that. Like you're not allowed.
What did judge say? What's the ruling? What's the ruling? What happened?
They fixed it, and there was.
Yeah, but the damage was already done.
I mean, the cat's out of the bag. The picture's shown.
I thought there was something up with the jury charge or something.
Oh, they argued about the jury charge for, I don't know, 8 hours. It seems like probably like 4 or 5 hours. Definition of
what were they arguing over? Okay.
So quick summary of the case is they're in a bar. A confrontation happens somehow, and then a person is dead.
That's. I love where it's going. Let's hear some more.
All right. So the jury charge, you have self-defense, you have multiple assailants, you have apparent danger. There was a lot of argument over the wording of all of that, the burden of self-defense, how that was worded. It was actually really interesting. I told a lot of the baby DAs to watch, to kind of see. You don't get to see a lot of this type of argument on a jury charge anymore because they just go to the jury charge bank, right?
I'd love to see the multi-assailant. I'd love to see the self-defense issues. I'd love to see the burden, that they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that self-defense was not reasonable.
Right. And so the state was really adamant because the defense proposed a jury charge that basically reiterated the fact that, the burden is beyond a reasonable doubt that they have to prove that self-defense did not apply.
Right.
And they didn't like the fact that it was being told again.
So there was
we wouldn't want to remind them of that.
I'm sorry.
I thought they proudly carried that burden.
Right. Right. Throughout the whole trial,
what was
you hold
the big
me
deal,
to
then?
that.
I thought there was a big deal. So they're just fighting over the law and the charge? I thought there was a big to-do or something.
Well, so they finally get the charge sorted out. Closing statements. So then today, I may not have the full story. So if somebody has the full story, great. Because I had left it up in the background because Judge Bell is fantastic and she leaves her live stream on. And then while the jury was out, if nothing's going on, she just mutes it. So I just leave it up in the background. So if something happens, then it, comes on. So I was getting out of the shower. And
thanks for that detail.
Yeah, Whoa. You're welcome.
And
so
then what
I
happened?
caught the tail end of it, and they had a juror. The judge was questioning a juror. And what I kind of gathered from what was going on is the foreman and one of the jurors was out in the courtroom. The other 10 were back in the room. There was an issue regarding, they said that he was refusing to deliberate any further.
Oh, wow.
He was done. He didn't want to deliberate. He was feeling like he was being attacked, I guess. And so they were asking kind of what was going on. And there was a lot of issues regarding that. Eventually, the juror said, look, I'm willing to deliberate further. I have not made my mind up. I would, see other evidence. So then they went back, continued deliberating.
But they had the foreman and the juror out there? That's a little weird. Usually you talk to one person at a time.
Just so you know, defense has made every mistrial
that just doesn't sound too kosher.
Well, I don't know the law well enough in that area. It seemed off to me. I know Judge Bell is really, really trying to give a fair, by the book, by the law trial. So I don't want to speak to any of that. I'm just giving what happened on the live stream.
Yeah.
And I know she's going to go.
So I had a time where I've had things that may have influenced the jury, and then we go one by one. We've ordered and the judge will conduct we'll propose questions, inquiries, and the judge will then do their own inquiry, but one by one separately. I had this one guy, he was accused and ended up being found guilty of some high-level trafficking stuff. And during the trial, there was an incident in the gallery threatening the defendant. The jury saw all of it. I've also sat another case where I've had, people watching the trial just to make sure nobody says anything they shouldn't, and just watching things. I've had that before. Rob, in your experience, have you ever seen things like that?
No, yeah, lots. I remember we were trying a case. I was trying a murder case with Schneider, and we had a defense witness on. It was really hard to get one to get up and say that the decedent was a very bad dude. And so this guy's very nervous on the witness stand, and he's talking about the decedent. It's summertime. And these three guys come in. They're right out of Central Casting. They're wearing black leather jackets. Their hair is slicked back. They sit in together. They're giving this guy the dirty look. And Stanley's questioning the witness. He doesn't notice these guys.
Oh, no.
So I poke Stanley, and everybody's looking at the witness. But I can see he sees these guys. I mean, it's summer, and they're wearing black leather jackets. And they were, giving him the eye. So I said, Stanley, ask the witness if he knows the three men that just walked in with the black leather jackets.
Oh, gosh.
And I knew what would happen, and it happened. Stanley asked a question, and he said no, but immediately the judge and all the jurors turned, and the bailiffs all turned and looked at these three guys with the black leather jackets on that were there to intimidate the witness. And immediately these three damn cowards got up and walked out of the courtroom, which is exactly what I wanted to have happen.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was a pretty moment.
That's awesome.
You know what? As cowards don't like attention, so you shine a light on them. They were like roaches getting out of the courtroom,
Mm-hmm.
So we were once one other one during summer, and before we had metal detectors, and it was a sentencing on a child abuser, and the father showed up wearing a very heavy winter coat, okay, and it's sentencing for a guy that was accused of molesting his child. So the guy's wearing and it's summer.
Yeah, I know. I have. Yeah, no, I have.
And so I go to the bailiff. I said and I point out to the bailiff. I said it's summer. And he said, yes. I said, and that man's wearing a winter coat.
No.
And he said, yeah. I said, and he's the father of the complainant. He said, oh, okay, I get you. And I said, so I'd rather not get shot in the back today. So he said he'd watch. The guy never did anything, there was no, but when people show up, yeah.
I had this case out in Montgomery County. The guy's it's the middle of summer. It's like July 27th, and he's wearing a full tracksuit 4 times bigger than his body. Yeah, no, we lost that case.
Yeah.
We lost that case. Yeah, no, we lost it. It's the middle of summer. The guy's wearing a tracksuit, man. You can't.
There's threats that you get all kinds of threats. Actually, we were trying a case, and Stanley and I were trying a case, and a death threat was called into our office. And so Stanley was being all brave and was like, well, I'll go on with the trial. I said, well, we can't go on with the trial. Our staff's probably freaking out.
Right.
So we went back to the office, and this is kind of funny. The guy that called in the death threat left his name. And the homicide cops showed up at our office, and they're like, oh, we know who that guy is. He's like a well-known nut. He's the guy that shows up at City Hall every week, and he called himself Mr. President. They actually had a name, Mr. President. And not actually his name, but so, I mean, how many people call in a death threat? It was because our case was a high publicity case, and that's why he called in.
Caught his attention.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't know when they told us in trial that a death threat had been called into our office, and I'm like, as to who? Stanley or me?
Wait. Hey, there's somebody calling. They're saying that they want to kill you. You want to take it, or
No,
that's fine. All right,
no, but I mean,
you can't talk right now.
It's humiliating.
Hey, you gotta get back to the trial. Get back to
cops were
the
looking
trial.
at us like, you guys stopped the trial because this lunatic called in a death threat, and he's scared of you all. I mean, but we didn't have any way of knowing that,
Right.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me finish the last bit. About the trial.
So what ends up? So
then
what happened?
Here's the last tidbit from today. So it ends when the jurors, I guess, send out 2 notes. First note, we're deadlocked.
Oh, snap.
What a surprise.
Yep. Second note is we want further clarification about paragraphs 5 and 7 of the jury charge in regards to the application of the law. I didn't have a chance to look it up, but I think it's where like the self-defense comes in.
Wow.
So they're definitely kind of stuck around that area.
But Kate,
send them home for the night. They're going to come back at 9 a.m. So
don't you find sometimes that trying to interpret notes is futile? I mean, every time I try to interpret a note, I'm completely wrong. It's like,
what's the advocate's name on the defense?
Candace.
Candace from the public defender's office.
Candace.
Yeah, by the way, guys, young attorneys wanting to watch trials, watch her. She knew this case backwards, forwards, just
who's at the table with her?
Insightful questions that really kind of cut through a lot of the BS, and she was great to watch. I really enjoyed watching her.
You make a really good point. Not only that, but that young lawyers can watch trials from the comfort of their own office by the live script. I mean, we didn't have that in my day. That's a good thing to do.
I'm just trying to learn. I'm just trying to learn from those.
I mean, I need to do more of that. That's a great learning mechanism that, lawyers, especially young lawyers, should take advantage of. We didn't have any. We used to have to just walk around till we found a trial.
Right. And who has time for that? I've got to work. I've got things to do. So now I can sit there and work in my office and watch. And this trial was all about the rule of optional completeness, which I've not heard for a lot of trials.
Doesn't that only apply to writings?
Dude, videos, all sorts of stuff.
Really? I'm interested.
They were making huge arguments. It was like if Johnny Depp trial was like the hearsay trial, I would say this was the rule of optional completeness. Like
really.
Wow. And
if the state was trying to hide all their nonsense, maybe we'd have.
Well, defense used it to their advantage. Like, hey, we want to enter this under the rule of optional completeness. All this is being said in front of the jury, and then even if they didn't get it allowed, then the jury's like, well, what is
rebuttal at the very least? It's rebuttal.
It's
rebuttal at the very least.
It's not. It's a great
another thing. I don't know if this is just true for federal court, but I think it's true in both. That you can refresh a person's recollection with anything.
Anything.
Yes.
And so I've had prosecutors object to it, and I said, no. If this refreshes their recollection, I could show them my shoe, and if that's going to help refresh their recollection, then so be it. But when the jury sees you go up, when you're
that'll
asking,
just make somebody pass out.
but when you go up, when you ask a cop during that interview that lasted 6 hours, didn't you say X? And he says, I don't remember. And then you get up and you have obviously a transcript in your hand.
Yeah.
And you go up and flip through to page 58 and show it to him. The jury knows that's a friggin' transcript. And just by virtue of the fact you have it, even if he says, I don't remember, if you put it under his nose and you show it to the jury, they see what you got in your hand, they know he said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state also likes to try to refresh recollection of witnesses when they don't give them the answer that they like, which is my favorite. You ask the officer, blah, blah, blah. And he says, no. And you're like, didn't you make a report in this case? Would it refresh your recollection? Judge objection, he answered the question.
Yeah.
He didn't say he didn't know. And
What else?
yeah, you're right.
Send us out. What else good stuff coming up? Hey, I spoke to Anthony Graves today, and he wants to be on the show. So let's set it up.
Anytime he wants to come on.
He'd honor us with his presence. And so that's coming up. Robb, always come on the show. If you got any names.
Well, I tell you what, every time I get a not guilty in federal court, I'll come by.
Kate, thank you for coming. Kate, come on every week. We're on next week. We're gonna go every week from here. This to everyone out there. We're gonna go this here on out till the end of the year. It's gonna be good.
Except for Thanksgiving, we won't be on Thanksgiving.
We could have a turkey. We can't have a turkey show though. So long as Kate is the turkey.
Thanks for letting me tell my story.
Wait, I'm the turkey?
No, I'm kidding.
Or is Robb the turkey?
I don't know what that means,
more like
but
a turkey.
Okay, Robb looks more like a turkey. That's fine. I mean, that's a fair statement.
I don't care.
HCLA, Reasonable Doubt. I love you all. See you next week. Let's rock and roll.
Likewise.
Same channel, same tune. We out.
We'll be here.
Bye.